I'm back, but this time with a surprise build. My PvE torp boat. And a lot of the credit for this build has to go to guys like Spencer, Nick, MC Stu, and a bunch of other people who I'm sure I'm forgetting. I'm sorry if I leave anybody out there. But I put together this build for the rare occasion that I do an ISE. It does do very, very high performance and a little bit different than the usual PvE build videos. I'm also going to talk about its PvP performance because today was the Universal PvP Endeavor and I actually flew it around a bunch. And this is one of the things that I'm always pointing to when the pay-to-win argument or whatever comes up. I mean, this build has, as you'll see, a lot of pretty fancy gear on it, and it folds up like a house of cards as soon as you go into PvP, so it's not that simple, you know. I could make it more survivable if I added some colony consoles or something. I don't really know. I haven't thought about it that much, but anyway, here we go. It's the legendary Vor'Cha command battle cruiser. In my forward weapons, I've got the EBM biomolecular torpedo, the Delphic torpedo, neutronic torpedo, dark matter torpedo, and the disruptor wide-angle dual heavy beam bank, although it probably would perform better if I had the Delphic dual beam bank instead for an extra high yield. I've got the fleet colony console, a competitive engines, the two-piece Tilly set just for a little extra regen. In the rear I have mines, so I've got Thoron infused quantum mines. I've got biomolecular photon mines with the radius ×3, and I also have the Elite Fleet Draeneur quantum mines. I've experimented with a couple of different mines in that slot, but that last slot, this is what I used on the record run. And then, of course, deuterium surplus and kinetic amplifiers. For consoles, I have the Lorca's fire controls. That was mainly for the two-piece here, but I'm not sure if that's really the best decision. Probably could be something else since I have the two-piece from these two weapons anyway. And the three-piece is really not that good. In my engineering console slots, I have bioneural infusion circuits. That's for that huge crit. I have phased space membrane. That is for a huge spike at the very beginning, up to 400% bonus all damage with torpedo weapons. The ordnance accelerator from the Gamma reputation, and that's just for faster mine recharge time, basically. Interphasic rift generator, that came off of the mirror warship, which I used the trait on this build anyway, and that 15% crit severity was the highest I had out of any console, but really I'm mostly just using it for crit. You could use any crit console here. It doesn't really matter that much. Or even better, if you have the immolating phaser lance from the Deimos, that would go here instead. I just don't have that on this character. And then I have DPRM, which I mainly have because I'm a Romulan and I got it in a box for like 6 million EC a long time ago. I probably wouldn't use this if I had to pay 1 billion EC for it. It's good, but it's not that good. Ferrofluid hydraulic assembly, that's for the reduced shared torpedo recharge time. So torpedoes fire every 2 seconds at a maximum, even if they're all off cooldown. And this console allows you to fire them every 1.5 seconds. It doesn't seem like much, but it really adds up over time. And then the agony redistributor, that's pretty meta for most DPS builds right now. And then these console slots, they're 4 vulnerability exploiters with the torpedo damage mod, and I haven't golded them or anything, but it's only a small difference, so that's just to maximize my crit severity. And I'll show my stats because that's worth noting. So I actually have pretty decent resistances, up to around 40%, and I'm hovering at about 50% crit chance and 275% severity. And the crit chance and severity goes up a little bit while I'm actually in combat, but that's a pretty good starting point there. For skills, I'm running not the TAC Ultimate tree that everybody else runs. This works well enough for me. Intel is my primary spec, and that's mainly for the intelligence fleet that I can activate for the extra shield and armor penetration for 30 seconds. And temporal, and that's for the increase to the damage over time, as well as the -10 damage resistance rating that it's applying to enemies whenever they have a damage over time effect applied. Going on to traits. For personal traits, I'm a tactical captain, so I have good day to die. That gets me a nice chunk of bonus damage. I have adaptive offense, that's basically 9% severity. I have projectile training. If I had superior, it'd be slightly better, but I don't. Context is for kings, that's for some bonus damage. Fleet coordinator, that's for bonus damage too in a team. I have intelligence agent attaché, but in really fast runs, it might be better to not take this and instead use something else. Then I have Terran targeting systems for crit severity, self-modulating fire to pierce shields, but again, this is another one that I probably would not use if I was really, really optimizing this. I don't think this trait really works well here. And same thing with unconventional systems, which shouldn't be on this build, actually. Well, that's a mistake, because I don't have any control abilities. Let's see. Let's take those off. Do a little live modifications here. Inspirational leader, I guess, is okay. It's not really a lot. There's definitely better stuff I could use, I just don't have it all unlocked. I guess I'll do Romulan Operative just for the extra crit severity. So there you go. And then for starship traits, I have subspatial warheads. That one deals a ton of damage. These little rifts that the high-yield torpedoes leave. I have Terran Goodbye. That's for a nice, basically 15% crit chance. The accuracy doesn't really play that big of a role. The Ruin of Our Enemies. This one, every time you score the killing hit on an enemy, you get this very nice bonus damage increase. And it can stack a lot, but the key is you have to actually land the killing blow to get the buff from this, so it's debatable just how well it works, but it's kind of hard to tell because you don't get a stack counter. You just get the plain ruin icon. It doesn't tell you how many stacks you have. So really to measure it, you have to do a whole run while maybe hovering over an ability and watching the damage increase to see if it actually works. Then I have rapid emitting armaments. This one, when you activate a tractor beam, you get this bonus to torpedo weapon damage as well as firing 3 plasma torpedoes, and they deal a huge amount of damage and also leave behind subspatial warheads. So it fires 3 of them, it leaves behind 3 subspatial warheads. Then I have Entwined Tactical Matrices. That gives me some free torpedo spreads in the in-between times. And Ceaseless Momentum, another one I got from a trait box really, really inexpensively. That's probably more expensive now. And that one, when firing a torpedo, you get this bonus kinetic damage. And that kinetic damage applies to the mines as well, so it's really good. For reputation traits, I have the Crit Severity one, the Romulan Crit Chance one, Tyler's Duality, which is the other crit chance one, the Torpedo Pre-Fire Sequence, that's for bonus torpedo damage, and a little bit faster flight speed, which mainly affects the rapid emitting armaments, the tractor beam ones. And of course, Omega Kinetic Shearing, which even after getting nerfed from 40% to 10%, and now 12.5%, it's still worth a really, really huge amount of damage. So that's a slam dunk. And then the only other one I kind of use is sometimes I use this anti-time entanglement singularity thing. It does some physical damage that penetrates shields. I mostly use it to kill things like the nanite transformers and that kind of thing if my team is a little slower to use them. And here's the BOF layout. So starting with the tactical seating, I've got a High Yield 3 and Scatter Volley 1 and Fire at Will 1. Those are for the Entwined Tactical Matrices. And Chemosite Laced Weaponry, that just deals a good radiation damage hit and does some debuff with the torpedoes. And And then I also have attack pattern beta for a little bit more debuff, and mine dispersal pattern beta 2. That's the pattern that's like the large web, and it really enhances the number of mines I can have deployed at any given time. Then I also have distributed targeting 1, which I use on like transformers and tac cube and other things to provide some cleanup DPS. Basically, the 8 seconds when you land hits, the damage applies to other enemies within 3 kilometers. It's a pretty small distance, but if everything's pulled together in a gravity well, it can do a decent amount of damage. And then mixed armament synergy, I have a dual beam bank in the front, and the rest are torpedoes, so that gives me some extra bonus damage. And then on my engineering seat, I have emergency to engines 1, which is important for positioning, aux to SIF 1, which is for activating my competitive engines and also positioning. And that one is kind of a holdover from my PvP focus. Maybe I could use something like Structural Integrity Collapse 2 for more kinetic debuff. Something like that might be marginally better in performance. I just like having that positioning ability. And Concentrate Firepower 3, which is critical to this kind of build, gets those high yield torpedoes out there and does a lot of damage. And Call Emergency Artillery also does a huge amount of damage, especially if you line it up across a bunch of spheres or something like that, can really wreck. And then my Ensign Science seat just has Tractor Beam 1, and that's purely there for the Rapid Emitting Armaments trait. And then my duty officers, I have 22 of 47. This improves my crit severity after activating those 2 engineering abilities. And I don't get the armor penetration because I don't have any intel seating. I got this officer really inexpensively a long time ago. I think 27 of 47 is the one that probably would perform better. I think that's the one that is crit severity on tactical abilities. So that would be a better performer on this build. I'm just not fancy enough to buy that. I have the crit severity on firing projectiles officer. I have the crit chance on firing projectiles officer. I have the recharge evasive maneuvers officer in case I need to reposition quickly. And a projectile weapons officer that improves the recharge time of mines, just because the mines are worth a lot of spike damage. I also use there's a ultra rare officer, this guy, who increases kinetic damage, and it's Cat 2 with torpedoes. So that's a pretty good one as well. But I think the mines one, you get just a little bit more damage out than this chance officer. And then in the last slot, because I didn't know what to put, I put my usual Oxisive Placate officer. It's because I have this officer for free, account-wide, because I own the Delta Operations Pack. And that's just, it just helps with staying alive a little bit, especially in really, really fast runs where the tank is not really drawing as much aggro because you're going for more speed. This is just a nice way to protect myself if I'm running the primary DPS role in a team. And that's something a lot of people don't understand about these kind of runs, is you have a team and you each have a specific role that you're trying to do. So usually there's one person that's DPS, and then you have 3 people that are debuffers and nannies, and then you have the 5th player is a tank designed to absorb all threat. But that's in a traditional run where in ISE you hit the starting group, and then you go left, and then you all go right, and then you all go back to the middle to the gateway, and then the final attack cube, and that ends the run. And in a run like that, I did a little over 1.8 million DPS in this build. Same exact build here. But there's another type of run called a split run, which is where you all go to the opener, but one ship is also DPS and goes to the far right. And basically what you do is the main DPS, a nanny, and a tank all go left after the initial volley, destroy the left side transformer, and then you have 2 other high damage builds. One of them destroys the right transformer, and one of them focuses on the gateway. And then the main DPS build comes back to center and attacks the tactical cube as soon as it spawns in. And the idea basically is to end the mission as quickly as possible. I mean, if you can get under 40 or 50 seconds. That's how people are posting these really, really high damage numbers. Because think about it, damage per second. So if I deal 5 million damage, but it takes me 60 seconds to do it, we can complete the mission and work as a team and complete it and everything is fine, but my DPS is going to be a lot lower than if we did the same run in 30 seconds, my DPS would be double, basically. So the faster you can kill everything on the map so that the parser stops recording damage, the better as far as DPS runs go. So I'm going to show the video of the run, and then we'll look at the parse afterwards really quick. So here's the video of the run, and I'll narrate kind of what I'm doing. So I'm pre-buffing here, and I'm dropping my mines. And I'm using the speed cruiser ability. And here I'm just trying to get as many mines out as possible. And I'm going to hit the cap on the different mine launchers anyway. It just happened right there. I despawned some and then respawned them. And that's fine. I'm just trying to get ready. And about 10 seconds to go, I'm going to activate the phase membrane. There it is. And then a teammate is going to use a team Oxbat on me so that my Ox stays high for this initial volley. And here, I'm going to buff everything up. I hit my batteries. And I use Agony Redistributor right there at the start as well. And I'm just trying to do as much damage as I possibly can here so that it deflects to all the nearby targets. So everything's dead. I move left. I'm focused on the transformer while my teammates are focused on the other pieces. I also can use distributed targeting or something here to destroy those transformers. And we land some pretty good hits. I'm keeping my captain abilities rolling. I'm flying back to center, and I'm going to focus on the tactical cube, which has a bunch of spheres and stuff around it, which is good because I can land some big hits, teleport a bunch of mines in, and look at those huge, huge damage numbers. And the gate's already dead behind me, or about to be dead behind me. That actually would have been a slightly better run if we'd killed the gate a little bit faster. But that was my first run in a really long time. And I really appreciate the team that helped me do that. So let's look at the parse really quick. From that run, I was in combat for 49 seconds, and I did 2.156 million DPS. Spencer here was the right side transformer, which is that tactic I was talking about, splitting the run. And then these guys are basically nannies here. And tanks is Stu, and it's a little bit different, in a traditional left to right run where the whole team is moving together. You'd regularly want to see the tank have 90% plus attacks in, and if you look here, the tank actually only took 55% attacks in, and that's pretty normal for really high end runs because the runs are so fast and so high damage that you're able to kill stuff before it's really that much of a threat. So even though I took 19% attacks in, I really only took 188,000 damage, and my ship has 145,000 hull. So even with absolutely minimal healing, I still had no problem surviving this run. So I didn't need a tank that would do 99% damage in. So this tank, even though the damage in is less, it's also performing a secondary role as a debuffer. It's using, negative damage resistance consoles and traits and things like that. And if you want to see the analysis, you can see the damage numbers here. It's I had pretty good crit rates with I had a 100% crit chance with the EBM turbo under high yield, which is awesome. So that's basically how it works. There's tons of people that have way better, more detailed PvE build videos than I have. I just wanted to show that I do actually do PvE as well, just not that often. And then I used the same build in a PvP match here, and I'll kind of watch that one really quick. There we go. And I'll kind of explain what's going on here. So the only real healing I have is I still have Ox to Sif with the Placate Doff, which is more than most PvE builds, and the Discovery 2-piece set for 120% hull regen. And obviously DPRM is there, and that has a heal, and Phase Space Membrane makes you immune to kinetic damage. So I've got a couple of options here, but not many. You know, this isn't really a purpose-built PvP build. And that's why, you know, I try to get some torpedoes off here, but I'm struggling to even land a hit, and I'm basically dead almost immediately. And this is what I talk about where a lot of people that give advice about PvP on Reddit and stuff like that, their only experience playing PvP is taking a PvE-focused DPS build like this one that has very little healing, no debuff cleanses or anything like that, and I call it jousting. It's when you go nose to nose with another PvE build, and basically whoever gets the first high damage shot off wins. You know, like right there, I land a big torpedo hit on that guy, that Vengeance class, and he dies. But it's only because he didn't shoot me first, you know? And now I'm sub-nuked, and I'm sensor scanned, and I don't have science team, or engineering team, or any, you know, escape console, so I'm basically boned here. It's a miracle they haven't killed me sooner. And there I pop. You know, I'm trying to, because my team is getting pretty massacred here, and I'm trying to pick on people who aren't going to be good PvPers, but they catch me in a tractor here, and I'm dead in seconds. So, like I said, it's not an issue of pay to win or anything like that. It's about your build, and you know, I could easily, if I had this ship set up the way I have it now, I could easily go to my fleet colony and I could buy colony tactical consoles for more healing. I could run some patrols and run hull image refractors or Alachi rift jump or fluidic decoupler or something like that, and try to turn this into a PvP build. But it's still going to struggle to land those basic hits. I did get a couple of good ones off there on Noir. And I had DPRM running here because I'm just trying to stay in the fight for 20 seconds, because as soon as that wears off, I'm basically dead. And now I'm in parasitic ice, so might as well just call it a death at that point. Yeah, I do actually score a kill there, but it was against another person in a PvE build. That person had 3 deaths as well. I had 4. So, and I just want to be clear, I mean, I'm not complaining about PvP, quite the opposite actually. What I'm saying is that these types of singularly focused PvE builds, you know, I did not design this build with the intent of dealing with getting debuffed or sub-nuked or scrambled or gravity weld or, you know, and I never thought I would need enough resistances to handle a high-powered beam overload shot or something like that, because it's 2 totally different sections of the game. You know, this build is not designed for PvP. and I shouldn't expect it to do well in PvP. Just like, I don't really use my PvP builds in PvE unless I'm just farming randoms or something, which I don't really do that much either. Clearly, because I have no dilithium anymore. But yeah, that's all there is to it. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.